Hello and welcome back to the In the Balance podcast, where we dive into all things equilibrium and staying fit and healthy over the long haul with your hosts Ryan Thomas and Charlie Thompson. So today, episode 2, we're going to be diving into nutrition. We're going to have a bit of fun with this one. We're going to be playing a game of overrated, underrated, where me and Charles will discuss the hot topics in nutrition at the moment, and really see if we align, see if we agree on our opinions around those topics, and hopefully we can all learn something along the way. So let's dive right in. Let's go for our first one, Ryan, when you're ready.
First topic being intermittent fasting, underrated or overrated?
There we go, first one, aligned. Yeah, I think for me, it's just a thing of people put way more emphasis on than is actually necessary. I think it can be a really useful tool for a lot of people, and there's definitely people that it certainly helps. But for me, I think it's not 100% necessary. A lot of people put so much power into it or give it so much power when it's not, it's not the secret sauce to anything. So it's just not completely needed or necessary.
Yeah, I think that word secret sauce, I think people are looking for that secret thing, and I think intermittent fasting kind of exists in this space of kind of biohacking and that type of vibe, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I think what the evidence really says is that a calorie deficit is what is going to drive most of those results that people have experienced from intermittent fasting and want from intermittent fasting. I think the problems that it tends to run into is if you're not going to eat for 16 or 20 hours, however long that fasting window is, a lot of people are going to get really hungry, and when you get really hungry you tend to overeat. Yep. So I think a lot of people find in the beginning it might work, but then you are putting yourself in a place where you get really hungry, you end up overeating, and then you don't really experience any of the benefits that you're seeking anyway. So I think it's one of those ones that's definitely overrated if you're looking for improvements in body composition. All the standard ways that we practice to get into a calorie deficit are just easier.
Yeah.
They're just easier to maintain over the long haul.
100%. I think you just need a really good system built around the basics, and anything that you want to chuck on that you can add that gets a little bit more specific, then great, but you don't need this one thing to try and mask it all. You might as well just focus on those basics and get good at those.
Topic 2, high protein diets, underrated or overrated?
Getting confused with the way up to the
Underrated. Underrated for sure. High protein diet is going to have all these benefits, from helping you maintain your muscle mass as you get older to improving satiety levels throughout the day. So you're going to naturally eat less, you're going to be less likely to put on weight. All that side of things is extremely well researched. I think where people tend to get confused with this is like protein Snickers bars and protein ice cream and this kind of thing. And so they've taken a really good concept, which is eating a high protein diet, which is probably for most people around 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilo of body weight for protein intake. Getting those at regular intervals throughout the day from whole food sources, but then that information's been taken and cereal companies and Mars bar companies have turned that into a product. They've run with that, and I think it's left the public like super confused about whether this whole high protein thing is a scam. Like, I know you've certainly had some experiences, Charlie, where some clients have come to you thinking that it is a scam, even though the research is so clear. Like, tell us about one of those experiences.
Well, I think it's exactly that. It's just that flip side of it. They've taken that really good thing, that thing that we all know you need, and sort of made a bit of a sham out of it. Again, like I said on that last point, if you're focusing on the basics and you've got all the things in that you need, then chances are you're going to be covering what you need anyway. So all of this stuff just becomes extra rubbish, and that's where I understand where these people are coming from when they see all this stuff and they think, oh, I don't need it, or I don't need this. Whatever side of the fence they're on, it just makes it really confusing. It just mixes everything together, taking something that's good and almost making a little bit of a mockery out of it.
Well, I think it's trying to make money off of it, to be honest. It's trying to, the public's got more of an awareness that they need to have protein in their diets. Let's shove it into Mars bars. Now I'm eating a high protein diet. Like that is not the point. the point is all, those good sources of protein, meat, poultry, eggs, yogurt, like all those good places that we recommend getting protein from, and then maybe a little bit of supplementation to support that, mainly out of convenience, but certainly not as the go-to.
But also, if you're covering all those points and you're getting it all in from things that we want to be getting your protein in from, just have a Snickers bar. Just have a normal one.
But that's also it. It's like, if the Snickers bar has got, 300 calories in it, and it's 300 calories and 30 grams of protein, it's still got 300 calories in it. And I think that's what people miss, is like, it says protein, therefore healthy. No, it says protein and it's still got the calories in. And, if we're trying to change body composition, it's still calories. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and a lot of the time as well, they're making something that is still not at the level you want, just makes sound slightly better than where it would be. If you've got normal Snickers bar, and let's just say for argument's sake, it's got 2 grams protein in, get a high protein one that's got 10, just to make up some random numbers, that's still not much in comparison to anything else that you could eat that isn't being made into its own product and anything like that. So,
Topic 3, creatine supplementation. Overrated or underrated?
It's underrated, which means that it's a thumbs up.
Good.
It's good.
For me, just starting off with my opinion on it, really, I think I love it.
Have you supplement with it? Don't you?
Yeah. And I've been through different periods with it as well. I've been through phases where I've been really on and off with it, times where I've taken it really consistently, and then fallen out of routine with it. I feel at the moment, for the last few months, I've been in a really good sort of consistent routine with it, and definitely feeling those benefits again. So for me, it's become a bit of a staple, to be honest. It's part of my day now.
Do you want to explain to people at all like what it actually does, creatine?
So, as far as my knowledge goes, you're sort of bridging that gap in part of your energy system of where you're using your creatine. So as far as where it came from for the fitness realm is helping with a little bit of performance, allowing you to keep pushing at a slightly higher level perhaps, and just getting a little bit more out of your training.
Yeah, to get a little bit sciencey for people, our muscles work off of, like, the pure energy they work off of is ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and creatine helps us produce more of that. So the more ATP we have available, the more contractions our muscle can go through. Therefore, as Charlie said, we can go a little bit further in sessions than we normally would. I think the interesting space for creatine at the moment is it's being shown to have massive benefits, especially in the over 40s community. And especially for women in the over 40s community, and not just muscularly, but also there's some interesting stuff going on in neuroscience as well. So I think that's still very much being studied, but there's strong indicators saying that if you're going to supplement anything, probably protein and creatine are the two that make the most sense, and they're probably the two most well-studied supplements on the planet now.
Topic 4, cutting out carbohydrates. Overrated or underrated?
Overrated.
Overrated.
Which means it's a thumb down. I think it's quite similar to the intermittent fasting one that we've already covered. It's a really simplistic way for people to try to cut more energy out of their diet. to reduce their calorie intake. Ultimately, is what people are trying to do, is just reduce the number of calories they're eating. That's what the science is saying anyway. That's where the benefits are coming from on a low carb diet, is you're just reducing your calorie intake, same as the intermittent fasting. I think for some people, maybe it works like intermittent fasting. Once again, like if you find that you just like eating a really high protein, high fat diet, then that's cool. But I think it's about not deluding yourself into the idea that, like, because you're eating all this protein and the carbs aren't in there, that your body's turned into some kind of metabolic furnace, and the body works really, really well off of carbohydrate. Like, the brain functions really, really well off of carbohydrate. It's why it's in the diet of all athletes everywhere. There's no athlete in the Olympic Games which is avoiding carbohydrates that I'm aware of anyway. We function really well off of carbs. So to cut them out and be like, I'm not going to have any, and not understand like some of that basic science behind it, I think it's a bit extreme.
Yeah, I think most of the time it comes with good intention. But like you say, that underlying sort of reason is just trying to cut that energy out. So is it really necessary? Not in my opinion. If it works for you, then absolutely great.
I think it's kind of just this, like, the nutrition industry has gone through these phases of low fat was the rage, low carb has been a rage, and exactly to your point, like, it's just not necessary. And I think it's buying into some kind of dogma or ethos, and that has usually these ideas have kind of like cult like communities around them, where people want to get there's real kind of like for and against with it. People are like, oh, I'm in the low carb camp, I'm in the low fat camp. And I think the truth really lies somewhere in the middle with most of this stuff. And you're getting into a calorie deficit probably in a slightly unnecessary way.
Yeah, I think, we've all done it. I know I certainly have. We've all tried these things, especially as coaches. But I think if you could do a session not having really any carbs after a week, and then go back in time, have a week full of carbs and do a session, you're going to feel the difference.
Yeah. I mean, I think to talk about like actual experience, like that is the experience of it. Like, when I've done it before, the first week, you've probably still got quite a lot of glycogen, a lot of like stored sugars in your system. So in that first week, training's fine.
Yeah.
10 days later, you probably start to go through a lot of that stored glycogen, and it's like everything's feeling pretty heavy. Everything's feeling pretty hard at that point. For me, I think that's quite a common experience. So yeah, I think especially if you care about training, especially if that's, if you're trying to make performance progress, like, carbs, good.
Carbs good.
Carbs good.
Topic number 5, calorie counting. Overrated or underrated?
I'm gonna go overrated, but I know why you took a second on that.
Yeah. For me, it's a tool. Is it necessary? No. But can it be extremely powerful? Yes. Especially for me, with my experience, I've done both. I've done 2 photo shoots now. One on the back of calorie counting, one off the back of more of a habit-based approach with a certain sort of system in place. Both worked wonders. Both saw great progress. But again, is it necessary? No. I think it just comes down to, for me, a little bit about personality and just understanding yourself a little bit. For some people, works really well, and they love having that accountability and that number to base off, and they find it really useful, really convenient to track their calories, and there's a lot of flexibility that can come in that if you're sort of used to doing it, and you sort of know your allowance, what you can fit in, what you can squeeze in. But then it can also go the complete opposite way as well. Some people really don't like having that number. It feels really limited. It feels like they've sort of got a third eye watching them, watching every move, and that they're bad if they go past a certain number. So I think it can be quite varied, but I am a big fan of it, but not needed.
I'm gonna push back a little bit on this one. Not something that I don't massively disagree with what you're saying. I think my opinion on it is that it's slightly overrated in a way, just because it's so many people's go-to, rather than eating the right foods. Yeah. Because ultimately, if you just focus on the plate, and we're looking at those whole foods, and we've got, you know, high levels of protein and high levels of fiber, the calories are going to take care of themselves. And I think that's the biggest thing. And sometimes I feel like with tracking calories, people get obsessed with these digits, and they talk themselves into kind of a mind trap, a place where it's like, oh, you know, but it tells me that I should be losing weight, and I'm not losing weight. Where it's like, if you're not losing weight, something's going wrong on the plate, generally. And so I think it is a fantastic tool. It's a tool to usually show people what they're doing. So if we can raise their level of awareness in other ways, sometimes I think it negates that phase of, or that risk of getting overly focused on numbers on a screen rather than what's happening in reality.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think, and a really easy way to sort of picture that, or to make it make sense even more so, is let's just take 2,000 calories. If you have 2,000 calories of chocolate every day, you're not going to feel great.
Yeah.
Focus on all the right stuff. You're going to feel fantastic. You're going to have 100 times the energy. You're not going to be hungry, which is another big thing that we could rabbit hole all day on this, I think. But you know, there's going to be so...
Yeah, there's like nutrient partitioning as well. I think that's another thing. I think if we can lend any science to this, is sometimes people get a little bit confused about whether a calorie is a calorie. And like when it comes to a calorie deficit, like when we're trying to lose weight, or lose body fat, I should say, generally speaking, like if my requirement is 2,500 calories, I eat 2,000 calories, I will lose weight. Like I will, whether that is chocolate or whether that is a high protein balanced diet. But those nutrients in the body act really, really differently, and how you're going to feel, how you're going to perform, how sustainable this is, it, you know, massively changes based on those nutrients that you're having. And I think sometimes, like you're saying, the sort of the trap with calorie tracking is you then get into a place where everything's kind of equal. Yeah. So I've got 300 calories left. I can have it from a bowl of sweets. I can have it from you know, a full high protein meal. I'll go for the sweets. And that, I think that's where people kind of you know, have a bit of a downfall with it. But
Topic 6, gut health and probiotics, overrated or underrated? I'm
confused again.
I'm going to get underrated. It's underrated, which means it's a thumbs up. Yes. So I'm going to break this into two parts. So I think gut health is massively underrated. I think the science on this is only really just coming out, but gut health has so much to do with how we feel, how we perform, what our energy levels are like, what our immune system's like. So I think it's, you know, a massively underrated space that is, you know, coming to more of the forefront of nutrition science at the moment. But once again, I do think there is an industry that is slightly preying on this. You know, as the public are becoming more aware of gut health and its importance, suddenly getting all of these probiotic drinks that have got, you know, next to nothing in terms of cultures in them, and people are thinking that that's really going to make a difference to their health, whereas there are some supplements, but they're almost kind of medical grade. They're like, you know, serious supplements, billions of cultures within with each intake, that are going to impact the gut positively, whereas I think just having like the odd Actimel, it's not, you're not going to transform your gut health. So I think it's underrated in terms of an area, but I think it's overrated in terms of the supplementation, the canned energy drinks with a bit of gut health associated with it at the moment anyway.
Completely agree. Don't have too much to add on that one. It's just the same sort of theme, isn't it, really? It's a really good thing, but it's just that level of caution to have with it about what these companies can do. But I think from the actual thing itself, definitely sort of underrated. And like you say, it's just going to become more and more relevant. It already is. More and more people are learning about it, finding out the importance of it. So long may that continue.
Have you had any clients ask about it, interestingly?
Not massively. We can sort of touch upon it here and there, but no real sort of deep conversations as of yet. I think it's definitely an avenue to start thinking more about, start pushing down a little bit further, especially like we've already, again, touched upon already, having that initial foundation, building up the layers. It's definitely one that is a staple.
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones where people are kind of like, I'm eating the protein, I'm eating more whole food sources, I'm still not quite feeling where I want to feel or getting where I want to be. It's like that next level of challenge that can exist there. And I think once again, it's a space where by eating a whole food diet, eating a massive range of different foods, especially fermented foods, you're going to get those kind of benefits without the need of having like loads of extra supplements.
Yeah.
But the supplement industry doesn't want you to think that.
Yeah, I think, my opinion on this sort of thing is, we're created how we were created. Everything that we need is out there. It's just a case of including it, getting that range in, and chances are you'll be fine. It's just a case of learning about it, understanding what you're actually aiming for, and getting it all in.
Topic 7, GLP-1 medications, overrated or underrated?
Boom.
I was literally about to do the same thing. Can I go in the middle?
Boom. In the middle.
For me, the main thing to be aware of on this is an awareness piece. I think there's...
The main thing to be aware of is the awareness piece.
Yeah, I think there's obviously a lot being spoken about this at the moment. I think, we've got experience with people here that are using them. I think they've definitely got their place, and they can be great, and they're doing a lot of people a lot of good, but there's also a lot that they're not even aware of that they need to be aware of, like a lot of sort of downsides to it, a lot of things they don't even realize are going to come with it. So I think that's the main bit for me, is I think there needs to still be a lot more education around it, so that people actually know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of, oh my God, I can just jab myself with this thing and I'm going to lose all this weight and then I'm going to lose all this fat. And it's not that simple.
I think what's been a bit shocking, like having worked with people in person now, is how quickly they have been prescribed these drugs without understanding even what the drugs are doing for them.
Yeah, but they're coming into us and we're having these conversations, and we can say, because we need to do this, because we need to be careful of this due to what you're on. And it's like, really? I wasn't aware of that. I didn't know anything about this.
Yeah. I think my stance on GLP-1s, to round it up, is they are a fantastic medical intervention if it is absolutely necessary. If someone is at a real life-threatening, health-threatening place, that they have a place there. I think that what needs to happen though is people understanding what these drugs are doing for them, that they are producing artificial levels of satiety in the body. They're making them feel full when they're not. And so there are healthy habits around generally having high protein meals, high fiber meals, eating sort of semi-frequently throughout the day, having good levels of sleep, not overdoing it with alcohol. These kind of habits that will produce the levels of satiety that they want naturally. And if we don't have those healthy habits in place by the time we stop taking the GLP-1, I'm going to feel ravenous and I'm going to go straight back to where I was before I started taking them. So it's like, they have their place, but as soon as we start taking them, as soon as we start seeing results from them, we've got to start to work on getting these healthy habits in place for the time which inevitably these drugs have to come to an end in someone's weekly routine. I think we're seeing these celebrities at the moment that have just gone so over the top on them. They look like, Halloween figures of themselves because they don't know how to get off of them, and it's around these healthy habits, these satiety producing habits that we need to be starting to talk about from day one of the program, not at the end of it.
Yeah, I think we talk a lot about systems. Obviously, we're talking about the habits again. It's the systems and the habits that people have that have got them to the point of needing it in the first place. If those systems don't change, you're not going to get any difference. You can't mask it forever.
Yeah.
You could try if you want, but again, you're not going to feel great. It's going to cost you a lot of money as well. Not that that's the most important thing at all, but it's definitely a thing that's there, and again, there's so many things that we can do first, but we just have to make sure that underlying system is there, being improved upon, being adapted as well, to actually fit into that new version of what you're actually aiming for in the first place.
Topic 8, seed oils, overrated or underrated?
Yeah.
Pretty overrated.
Pretty overrated. So it's a thumb down.
I get it. I do get it. It's a rabbit hole I've dived into many occasions. I understand where people come from. I understand the concern that people have with it. But unless you're, in my opinion, some absolute athlete that's smashing every single aspect of life, fitness, nutrition, you don't really need to be worried about it. And even then, the amount of benefits that you're going to get just from eating foods that got a little bit of them in, you're not even going to notice it.
No, I think it's mainly, once again, it comes down to having, they're only really involved in highly processed foods. And I think the problem with it is it's led people to a place where they're now afraid of oils. So that they're missing out on the amazing benefits of, extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil. They're missing out on those benefits because they've associated seed oils with, the good stuff. So I think overall it's definitely been a negative for the industry. It's just social media thing.
Yeah. It's like you said earlier, actually, it gets quite culty.
Yeah,
So
very much so.
I'm not having this, I'm not having that. I could never touch that. And it's like, okay, well, are you getting your protein in? Are you getting your fiber in? Are you getting, your fruits and veg in? No. So, okay, well, there's so many benefits there that you're missing out on. And yet you're worried about this one thing that's not really even going to have an effect on you.
Yes, yeah. And there's not enough evidence with it anyway, not enough research behind it, so.
Topic 9, the glucose blood sugar conversation, underrated or overrated?
We're going in the middle.
We're going in the middle. I know your thoughts on this one, so I'm going to let you take this one.
I think once again it's interesting how many common themes there are today. Like the blood glucose conversation, I think, is coming from the right place. I think it is definitely important. I think insulin sensitivity, especially over the age of 40, can become increased especially in women, but more sedentary men as well. So it's an important thing, but it's once again, we're focusing on usually a product, something that we need to wear, an app we need to monitor, rather than, are we eating the right foods? Do we have protein and high fiber at each meal? Are we exercising on a regular basis? What's our levels of muscle mass like? It's like, let's get all of that stuff right. Let's get ourselves in a good spot. And then let's start looking at glucose monitors and that side of things. Like, absolutely, I think it can be very powerful for the right person at the right point in their journey. But I think for a lot of people, it's just another product that they're plastering on the problem of just addressing their eating and lifestyle habits. I think, but how many things have we spoken about already today that is just like if we address the problem of our eating lifestyle, and training habits, we don't need these extra products or dogmas, whatever it is.
Yeah, it just goes to show the power of simplicity, in my opinion. Get the foundations in, get the stuff dialed in that you should dial in, all the basics, all the stuff that's going to, be the base and just sort of travel its way through your journey and how you're feeling. Get that sorted, and half of this stuff you just won't need.
Well, I think it really, if you draw it back to its root cause, most of the time it simply comes down to, I want a quick fix. And that's an uncomfortable conversation to people to have. I think a lot of the time people think that it's coming from a place of, oh, this is the latest research, this is what I've seen on TV, or but actually, if you found yourself in this cycle of 1 year it was intermittent fasting, the next year it was juicing, then it was the Atkins diet, now you're on this glucose thing, it's let's just get the basics right. Get the basics right, and then see if any of these extras, usually have a cost associated with them, are actually going to be relevant for you.
Topic 10, collagen supplements, underrated or overrated?
Hey, I wasn't sure where it would sit on that one.
We're back. We're back in alignment.
I think collagen supplements, definitely collagen is a research supplement, but once again, if you have decent levels of protein intake, you're hitting 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per day, you probably don't need it.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Not really on that one. I think great thing to, again, have your mind on, but
I think it's as you said earlier, if you're gonna have a supplement, creatine, some kind of protein supplement, if you want, some people, there's some cool kind of coffee collagen blends that you can get and things like that. So if that's your way of getting a few grams of extra protein in a day, then cool. But just understand, I think the main benefit is going to be coming from the protein intake rather than collagen, and you still need to get that mainly from your diet and from the food that you're having.
I think, again, a little bit of an education piece in there is people will see this thing that they want, it's an outcome that they want, whether it's the hair or the skin or anything that they've heard online, and they'll go straight for this product, straight for this thing that they think, oh, I must have this, when they're unaware of the amounts of foods that are going to give them all of those things that they need.
Yeah.
Straight in there, boom, done.
have you seen the meme? There's this meme of this kid that's got this huge supplement cart. It's just tubs and tubs and tubs of powders, and it's like a $5,000 supplement bill for the month, and then it's his grocery list is I don't know, 10p. He's got nothing in his grocery cart. I think it's that in a way. I think people, they get suckered into the marketing for these things, and it's there is an essence of truth there. There is an element of truth to it, but it's most of the time, if we're getting the food right, we don't need these other things on top.
Topic 11, eating windows and time-restricted eating.
Yeah, overrated for sure.
Yeah. 100%. There's a goal with it. Usually it's for the energy side of things, trying to cut down. No, sorry, I'm going to restart that one. Usually people think it's a bit of, a magic fix. They think, if I only eat between this time, it's going to do all this magical stuff. There's going to be all these reactions and all this stuff that they've heard online, when usually it's just boiling down to a calorie deficit. If you're eating less throughout the day because you are more time restricted, it's just less calories.
Yeah.
Is it the time that you're eating doing that? No.
Yeah.
But again, if it helps you, great. I think there's a lot of things to consider. If you train in the morning but you're not eating until 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you'd probably see a lot more benefit to your training, not having that window and just eating before your training, fixing everything else. So if it works for you, great, but there's a few reasons I can think of that it wouldn't. But yeah, it's not the magic fix again. It's just...
I think the other one that we probably get here quite often that people are still a bit confused about is protein timing. So I think let's just nip that one in the bud. Protein before, good, like, whether it's an hour and a half before or 60 minutes before. I think I heard from March On podcast the other day something to the effect of the 90-60-30 method. Have you heard of this?
I have not.
So it's like 90 minutes before training would be pure food based. You're looking for carbohydrate and protein source. 60 minutes before training might be more of like a shake, something like that.
Yeah.
And 30 minutes before training is where you'd be looking at something in pure kind of supplement form, maybe some like quick carbohydrates that you can absorb before training. So I think to jump back for a second here, I think that having some form of carbs and protein before training and some form of carbs and protein in the hours after training is super useful from a recovery standpoint, but it's not this, like, if you don't get 30 grams of protein in 30 minutes after your session, your muscles will fall off your body. They used to call it the anabolic window. I think there's lots of stories of guys like smashing tuna straight after a workout because they thought it was like, if I don't get it in, then the workout doesn't count. Whereas I think I heard Brad Schoenfeld, the sports scientist, basically say it's not a window, it's a barn door. It's like within up to like 4 to 5 hours after training, as long as you're having some protein, some carbohydrate, that's going to help you, repair and recover from that session.
Topic 12, ultra processed foods, underrated or overrated?
Underrated.
Overrated or underrated?
Depends what the context is.
It sucks.
Yeah. Agreed. I think if you really boil it down to what food is, why we eat, it almost goes against everything. It's just not got anything of any value in. I think I've said before, if you think about cars, for example, you want to, fill it with what it runs on. If you just chuck a load of random stuff in there, it's just not even going to work. It's a very similar thing. If you're purely just living off of this stuff that's not actually the right fuel for you, why are you even doing it in the first place? Granted, a lot of it could taste pretty good, but it's not actually doing anything for you. It's just a bit of a waste in general, really.
With ultra-processed foods, they mess with your satiety hormones and with the natural processes that should tell you that you're full, basically. That's the problem with them. And I think to link back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of GLP-1s, you've got a problem with people not feeling full, and they have a problem with a society that's living way too much on ultra-processed food. Obviously, they taste great. That's not the issue. But if we're having too much ultra-processed food in our diets, we are not going to feel full. Therefore, we're going to overeat. Therefore, we're going to gain weight. And therefore, we're going to probably end up on a GLP-1. Whereas if once again we can bring it back to these high fibrous, high protein diets, which is what we should all be eating, and that's what we've evolved to eat, we're going to get those natural satiety signals to stop us from overeating. I think it's equilibrium for a reason. I think all of us enjoy a bit of high ultra-processed food every now and again.
Absolutely.
I have a toddler, so it's definitely in the house from time to time. But it's about understanding how much of it should be in your diet and the risks associated with it.
Yeah, like you say, we all have it. It tastes great. It's nice. You've got to treat yourself. Otherwise, life's just a bit boring, really. But we all put this work in, and we all do so much. We train. We take part in sports. We're active. We do all this stuff, and you put so much effort into having more protein and more fiber and all this good stuff that to then just sort of ignore that and have all this stuff that's just completely working against you. And so you've got to understand how you're treating yourself, in my opinion, as well. Like, enjoy it, look after yourself, and up here as well, have those things that taste nice, because they're great, they're treats, but don't build off of that, because it's not doing anything for you, and it's just pointless, really. I'm just losing track with my work.
Charles just doesn't like ultra-processed food.
I just don't like ultra-processed food.
Ultimately, don't do it.
Enjoy them, but it's just a bit of a pointless practice.
We talk a lot about the 80-20 rule, don't we?
Yeah.
What's the 80-20 rule?
80% of the things that are doing a lot for you, like high value things, and then just 20% of the stuff that you enjoy that you know isn't up there in terms of benefits. Yeah,
I think what we see, and I think where most personal trainers exist, is a place of if you're eating 80% of the right stuff, you probably got 20% there of flexibility, and sometimes that 20% is what allows you to stick to the 80% the rest of the time. I've worked with some amazing fitness people over the years that love a bit of ice cream on the weekends.
Absolutely.
Love a bit of pizza on the weekend. I remember one of the fittest women that I have ever met, owns a fantastic fitness business out in Australia. And she is obsessed with ice cream, obsessed. And she looks like an absolute athlete, but she's got her ratios right. Most of her food is high protein, high fiber, lots of variety in there. But then after she's done a 40k hike, she's gonna treat herself to some of the stuff that she enjoys, and that's what's gonna keep life fun and interesting and sustainable.
That's the thing. I think life without pizza for me is not a life worth living.
No, I totally hear you.
Wednesday night pizza, can't go wrong.
No,
but it's around all the other good stuff, all the stuff I need that's making me feel good, making me train well.
Topic 13, cold water therapy and recovery nutrition. Underrated or overrated?
Yeah, overrated.
Yeah. Easy.
Oh, no, sorry. Overrated for the plunge, underrated for recovery nutrition for me. Yeah?
Agreed. Recovery nutrition we sort of talked a little bit about already. I think, get that in, have that as a huge focus. And again, similar theme, if you're having all of that good stuff that's working for you, got all those benefits, do you even need the cold plunge?
No, but I don't think most people need the cold plunge at all. Yeah. I think the cold plunge is, once again, a social media sensation. I think it's way ahead of where any research is to prove that it's got these massive substantial benefits that are being claimed. I think there's actually some evidence to say that it can certainly interfere with the processes in strength and muscle building.
Yeah.
Especially when it's immediately after a session, which a lot of people will do. They'll train and then jump in a cold plunge, thinking that it's going to enhance recovery and that side of things. I think that's definitely not what the evidence says. I think where it probably exists is if you're an athlete and you've got a game or you're competing, bringing down the inflammation levels in your body is going to be useful. If you really want to train your mental fitness and your discipline, getting into 0 degree water on a regular basis that's a pretty good way to do it. But I think it's important not to delude yourself that it is doing something. I've heard of people doing it for fat loss, which I just think is just totally unfounded at the moment in time anyway.
If anyone can pick up enough studies and evidence to prove us otherwise, then great, I'm open to it, because I think it's generally a good thing. Why not? Go for it. But again, I think, as you touched on just now, it's come from more of in my opinion, a discipline side of things. I'm going to do this thing every single day. I'm going to stick to it. It's hard. It's difficult to do.
Which is why it does well on social.
Yeah. No, it's really hard to do. It's quite aesthetically pleasing as well when you're seeing someone do it, because it's just quite funny as well. But great, that's what you want to do it.
Absolute sadist.
Yeah, I know, it's quite funny. But by all means, go and do it. But like you say, if you're an athlete, you're at the top of your game, and you've got those sort of minute little areas to focus on, it's probably got a little bit more of a place. But for just the average
I think part of just to wrap up my opinions on the cold plunge, I think it's a misunderstanding as well, and I'm going to come back to social media on this, is a misunderstanding around inflammation and the problems with inflammation. I think social media has labeled inflammation bad. That's it. Therefore, cold plunge good. But it's understanding that we adapt through inflammation. Like all training is stimulating an adaptation process that is gonna cause inflammation. Like you can feel it in the days after training that you're gonna be slightly inflamed. The body's gonna send, nutrients to those sites to be able to grow, repair, and get stronger. It's part of the process. And so inflammation is necessary. And that's why, reducing inflammation, which is what a cold plunge will do. Sure, if you're about to have game day, let's reduce some inflammation. But if you're trying to adapt to your strength training, to your hypertrophy training, you might need to be inflamed, you might need to have that. You're not going to want to interrupt that process.
One thing I talk about even in sessions in here is what are we actually looking for? We've all got numbers that we're aiming for on the board and stuff like that. We've all got goals. It's not necessarily the number that you're going for. It's a certain stimulus. And if you're just, sort of avoiding that stimulus that you're achieving with something like this, like you say, if anything, it goes against you, it goes the other way. So it's just, again, to sort of agree with your point again. Yeah, you've got to accept it. You've got to, take what you're aiming for, run with it, and don't get in your way.
Topic 14, magnesium supplementation, underrated or overrated?
We've got
Overrated.
Oh no, I'm going to go underrated. Underrated.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. Okay, let's go.
I think for me, being completely honest, it's not an area I'm massively clued up in. So I'm just sort of sat on the fence with it a little bit, but as far as I'm aware, again, just back to that theme of if you're getting everything in that you need, great, you're probably going to be all right. But I understand that, again, another opinion of mine, if I was going to take anything, that would be sort of a go-to.
The reason why Charles is not completely clued up on magnesium is because he doesn't have any kids yet. And so he hasn't had his entire world turned upside down around sleep.
Yeah.
So what the research says with magnesium is that it can massively help with the sleeping process. It helps with particularly around, melanin that helps you stay asleep.
Yeah.
So magnesium, there's still lots of research going on with magnesium at the moment, but magnesium is showing very promising signs around sleep. It's probably, alongside protein, creatine, one of the most researched supplements that there is. So if, like me, you've had 5 years of disrupted sleep from small people, I would definitely recommend a magnesium supplement.
They definitely work.
Lastly, topic 15, the 30 plants a week rule.
Forgotten my own hand signals. Underrated.
Underrated. Yeah.
Underrated. Yeah. This is straight from Dominique Ludwig, absolute legend.
Hero.
Such good choices where she goes to the gym.
Best gym.
Best gym. So 30 plants or vegetables being in your week. I think this comes back to the research at the moment about just how important it is to look after the gut microbiome.
Yes.
How the gut microbiome influences, like I said before, energy, immunity levels, just how you feel during your day. The gut is very much, as they've termed it, the second brain. I think sometimes when people hear 30 plants, they get a little bit overwhelmed, and it's like, oh my God, I'm just going to be living like a like a herbivore, and I have to eat all these plants every week. But this is actually, like, herbs and spices count. And when you include things like that, it's not as hard to get in as you think. And we've covered a lot of times today already just how important it is when it comes to satiety and protein as well. So yeah, I think it's massively underrated.
Yeah, 100%. Just be a thing that we should all need to just be aware of and make sure that we get in. I think even an area of focus for me, I know you've picked me up on it a lot. When I come in with my bowl of chicken and rice and not much else, I do get my veg in, but I can definitely have more. I think, for me, personally, looking at the energy side of things as well, that's the main area for me. Keeping energy high, especially for what we do. We're talking all day, we're on our feet all day. We're, there's a lot up here in the noggin. So I think it's a big area to have at the front of our mind.
It's another reason for me why I don't love calorie tracking, because this is not going to show up super well in a calorie tracking app. You're going to be focused on purely the kind of calorie deficit that you're going to get into. But when we focus on the plate and what's actually in front of us at each meal, we can start to pick up patterns as to, are we getting enough veg, and within that veg, is there actually enough variety there? Because a lot of people do get to a place of I'm eating all the right stuff, but my energy is really low, or my sleep sucks, or other areas of life, libido, things like that are being affected. And it's actually things like our gut microbiome, that could be what's affecting these things. So I think that variety, especially those fermented foods that we spoke about earlier, kimchi, things like that, sauerkraut making an appearance, I think definitely underrated in terms of energy and that side of things. Well, this has been a lot of fun.
Lots of fun.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
And we'll see you in the next one.